Spain. What do you guys know about Spain?
It's in a different continent.
It is in a different continent. It's in a different continent.
And it's Europe. And it's in Europe and it's very close to Morocco.
That's true. You remember that from our last lesson.
I actually forgot when I looked at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super close. I went from Spain to Morocco. When I went to Morocco a few years ago, I took a boat right from Spain. In fact, we can go ahead and take a look at that. So we saw Spain on the map here. We're already zoomed in, and you can see that the landscape is kind of dry in some areas and kind of foresty in some areas. It's a pretty diverse country, and it's got a lot of ocean as well. So because it has so much ocean, and it was one of the earlier countries to develop, they built lots and lots of boats because they wanted to go out and see the world. And they said, you know, we have some good stuff to grow here, but surely there are other things out there in the seas for us to go find. And so they got on those boats and went looking for other lands and mostly landed over here in the Americas, both in North America and in South America. And they actually, even before the US was a country, they landed in the United States of America, and they started looking around and they started looking at, you know, what's here, what could we grow, what could we take back to Spain, what can we learn? And they kind of spread out all over the Americas. And eventually, they sort of reduced how much land they held. So as the US was becoming a country, they sort of moved mostly into South America. And here's I have one somewhere. Here's a little map where you can see way back a long time ago, all the places that Spain went. So Spain was here, and they went and they took over all this land. What do you think about that?
Like they were in charge of it.
Yeah.
What is that red over there?
This one up here? Or all the way over here, you mean in Asia?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. That might be the Philippines. But yeah, I guess they made it over to Asia too. They went all over the place with their boats. And actually, the country we'll talk about tomorrow is Portugal, which is right next to it. Yep, it's their neighbor. And Portugal, at the same time as Spain, also developed boats and sent lots of people out to the sea. And so we'll look at a map tomorrow of where they went. And you'll see that some of this in South America, the rest of South America was Portugal. And then they had some other spots around the world too. So Spain and Portugal both had really, really big ocean presence. They went all around the world exploring.
That's cool, huh? Kind of like Moana.
Just like Moana.
Yeah.
Except they didn't have magic.
Details.
So the population of Spain itself is 46 million people in the country of Spain. Do you know how big Pennsylvania is?
No.
No. Do you know how big the United States is?
No.
Okay. The US is like 300 million. So the US is much bigger than Spain. And Pennsylvania is right around 12 or 13 million. So Spain's about 4 times the size of Pennsylvania. If you took 4 Pennsylvanias and put them together, you'd have Spain.
I've seen the flag before. I've seen Spain's flag before.
That's Pennsylvania's flag that he has up now.
Yeah.
No, not Pennsylvania's flag.
That one is Pennsylvania's flag. On the other page is Spain's flag.
That's Pennsylvania's flag.
That's Spain's flag there.
That's not Pennsylvania's flag. It's the word with the lines and the stars.
Oh,
a lot of flags
United-
can be really similar. Oftentimes,
know
multiple
Pennsylvania.
countries and states might have really similar looking flags.
I didn't know that we had
That's because we don't make a big deal about state flags here. We care more about the country flag.
Yeah. State flags used to be a bigger deal back in the day before all the states came together and said, we want to be a country.
Yep.
So, because the Spanish went all over the place, a lot of people speak Spanish. In fact, if we look at the language that people learn when they grow up, the most commonly learned one is Chinese, because there's so many people in China. But the second most commonly learned language for children is Spanish. And English is
And
actually third.
English is third?
Yep, there's more kids growing up learning Spanish than there are learning English as their first language. However, a lot of people learn English as their second language. So a lot of people around the world also know English. So even though it's not the first language, if you look at how many people do speak English, it's actually 20% of the people in the world. And that's from countries all over the world. So you'll find people speaking English everywhere you go. And me, when I travel around, I only know English. So I don't know Chinese. I know a little bit of Spanish, but mostly when I travel around, I speak English with people. And there's, I can use tools like Google to translate things into English and communicate with people. But a lot of people speak English, so it's not a big problem. One thing that might be interesting to know is, you know how we talked about how the dollar is different in Taiwan and in China and in Japan compared to the US?
Yeah.
The currency in Spain and in a lot of Europe is also different, but a lot of countries share the same currency. They use something called the euro, short for Europe. And so if we look at the map of Europe, a lot of these countries all use the same currency, even though they're different countries. It makes it really easy because they have a lot of countries right next to each other, right? In the US, we have a lot of land, but it's all one country. So we have one language and a lot of things that are the same. But in Europe, you've got all these countries where they speak different languages and they have different histories. And so to make things easier, they said, hey, let's all use the same money. And so they all moved to using the euro for money.
Cool.
It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Their food is really cool. Have you ever heard of tapas?
Thomas?
Tapas.
No. I thought you said Thomas.
It's a Spanish style of food that's kind of like appetizers. So if you think of appetizers, usually it's little small things that you eat with your hands, right?
Yeah.
Well, in Spain, when they sit down to eat dinner, they'll eat dinner for 2 hours or 3 hours. And instead of having one big plate or one thing that they eat a lot of, they'll have lots and lots of little things over 2 or 3 hours. They eat very slow, and they spend a lot of time talking to one another and asking people questions and having these kinds of conversations. And then they eat a lot of different types of things, a lot of breads, a lot of meats, a lot of cheeses, but they do all these little small appetizer type things, and that makes up the whole meal. What do you think? Would you like to eat a dinner where it's just a lot of appetizers?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No and yes.
No and yes. Why no and why yes?
Yes, because I could eat a lot of the foods that I like.
That's true. You get a lot of options.
Why no? Do you know, Hayden? You can answer? Okay.
Do you
No
want
answer.
it?
Okay. The other thing that's really popular is called paella. And it's basically a type of rice that has a special seasoning called saffron. So it's like a yellow rice, and then they put all different kinds of foods in it. So usually different types of seafoods like mussels and shrimps because they have so much ocean. So it's a lot of rice and a lot of seafood. You don't like that?
I love seafood.
Well, then, Quinn, you should go have some paella, and Hayden, you should stick to the tapas. Hayden, which country had the most appealing food? Was there a country whose food looked really good to you?
The one that had a lot of Kit Kats.
Oh, Japan. That makes sense. Alrighty. So, what else? What else? What else? One of the things that sometimes people do after they eat is they take naps, right? Do you ever eat a lot of food and then you get tired?
Yeah.
Well, in Spain and in a lot of South America, they have something that they call siesta. Have you ever heard of siesta?
A fiesta.
Siesta with an S.
Siesta. It's basically like a nap, except it's not just for kids. The adults take a nap too, and they do it in the middle of the day, every day. So the adults go to work, and they'll be at work for 3-4 hours, and then they'll take lunch, and then they'll take a nap, and they'll just take a break for an hour, and then they go back to work, and then they work the rest of the day until evening, late in the evening.
That's unfair.
That's unfair. Everyone takes naps. So it's something where, you know, it's very hot there sometimes. And so when it's really hot, people can get really tired. So they take a lot of naps in the middle of the day.
What are these things? The blue little cars.
Those are couches that people are taking naps on.
Can we see a picture of one?
Of the couch?
Uh-huh.
There you go.
Why is there a lifeguard and those blue lines coming out of them?
Because the couches are underwater. They sleep at the bottom of the ocean.
Seriously?
Spain's like Atlantis. It's an underwater city.
Seriously?
I think he's messing with you.
Why do they have a lifeguard and the blue lines coming out of the couch?
I have no idea. Probably because there's weird things on the internet, and it's something a marketer was trying to do to make you think it was something you should click on. I don't know. That's probably not real. But they take naps. That's real.
I like that plan.
And they have very big cities. It's not like Tanzania. They have big cities and old cities. And so here are some photos of Madrid, which is their capital. And you can see the cities, they're tall, and they have a very unique style. Does it look kind of different, the style to you?
Can you use words?
Yeah.
What looks different about it?
They look like temples.
They do.
Except with a lot of layers. They look like temples with a lot of layers.
Mm-hmm. And the corners of the building are kind of rounded, right? Like they aren't sharp. There's no corners.
Yeah.
They round. It's one of the weird things. And that's both in Madrid as well as in Barcelona, which is their second largest city. And so they have a lot of buildings like this where they're all kind of wrapped around each other in a square. So it's a very different style than other cities.
That's cool, huh?
And one of the things that's interesting with Barcelona is they have this massive church. And so this is a zoomed out photo of Barcelona. And you can see one tall building over here to the left, and then this really big church over here to the right. And they had a really famous architect who had a very, what they call dramatic style. And so he created this church, this building that's one of the most unique styles in the world. Let's see if we can pull up a good photo of it. Well, here's one of the inside. You can see how tall it is and how different it looks, right?
Yeah.
It's very strange.
What did he look like?
What did the architect look like?
Yeah.
His name was Gaudi.
Gaudi. Antoni Gaudi. He looked like this.
He did a lot of designs that were very rounded and circular and weird shapes that you wouldn't normally see in a building. So you can see that in his churches. In this church, it's
And
really
all
beautiful
those buildings.
and very interesting.
Yeah, the church was just one example of what he made, but here are some other examples. Like look at this apartment building. The building
Whoa.
it looks like a wave.
What is this thing?
Brightly colored bottom middle.
It looks like they used some tile. So another building that has some tile, so it's more colorful.
Did a lot of architecture in Spain.
Yeah.
What is that blue picture?
That looks like the inside of another one of his buildings, where they again used some tile. Super colorful. One of the things that's really nice about Spain is it has a lot of beaches, including in the city of Barcelona. So there's this big city, but then there's also a massive beach right next to it. Have you ever been to a place where the city and the beach are in the same place?
Yeah.
Where?
Ocean City.
Ocean City. It's a really small city, but yes, it's true.
Yeah.
This would be like being in Philadelphia, larger, but being like in Philadelphia and having the beach and ocean right there on the edge of the city. Pretty cool, huh?
What are those?
That's part of the city landscape.
Yeah, so here's a good perspective. You can see this is Barcelona, where you have the city right up against the beach, right next to each other.
Cool.
One of the things that Spain is famous for is art. So they have a couple of the most famous painters in the world. Do you know any famous painters?
Can you think of names of any famous painters you've heard of? You've learned about a lot of them. Can you think?
Yeah, I just forgot their name.
But you'll recognize.
Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol, she said.
I don't know. Is he Spanish?
Warhol is famous. Yeah, he's American.
Oh, American. Gotcha. So some of the Spanish ones are Pablo Picasso. Have you ever heard of Pablo Picasso?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's one of them. Here's some of Pablo's art. And then another one is Salvador Dali. And he had very weird, creative kinds of art. Like, look at this one. How crazy is that?
I think Pops really likes Dali. Pops likes some funky stuff.
That sounds about right. I like Dali as well. So that is Barcelona. Any guesses on what the most famous sport in Spain is?
Soccer.
Ding, ding, ding. Soccer again. And they really like soccer in Spain. In fact, the teams Madrid and Barcelona are two of the best soccer teams in the entire world. And in Spanish culture, including in countries like Argentina and all throughout South America and Mexico, anywhere where they speak Spanish, soccer is really, really important to the culture. So you'll find soccer all around the world, but especially in Spain.
It's called football.
That's true. Would you prefer I call it football?
No.
Okay. Do you want to see some photos I took while I was in Spain?
Yeah.
Guys, your enthusiasm is way too high. You really need to calm down right now.
Why?
I'm just teasing. You sound so mellow. It's like a rough Monday or something.
I can't see very well.
Move over just a little bit. You can be.
The photos, I wasn't there very long, but you can see I did a race in Madrid. All these photos are from Madrid. This was actually kind of a fun one. It was a bakery where they had two different windows for you to look at their baked goods, and one was all their salty foods, and one was all their sweet foods.
Yeah.
Madrid is a very green city, so they have a lot of trees because the weather is pretty good there. So it's very, very green, and there's parks and trees kind of all throughout the city. And they have interesting old architecture like this, and they have a lot of statues. It's something that is often seen in Europe is they have lots and lots of statues, way more than in the US.
They're cool, huh?
Yeah.
Be hard to make.
They had a lot of street art too. So here's one with different mermaids and fish going around on the side of the building. Here's one with a monkey, where on this side, it's like
I like that.
super different. In fact, this one, it's not just paint, it's actually coming off the building. They used materials on the outside of the building. I don't know if you can tell.
Mm.
You see?
Cool. No, I couldn't tell until you got closer.
Like pieces of trash that they used.
Now what's the other side?
This side's just super colorful, really artistic.
What is that stuff in the background of the colorful one?
I think it's supposed to be like trees and
Oh, trees and maybe
What's
some
this
mountains. I don't know.
and this something funky.
I'm sure
Pretty
the
cool.
artist knew what it was. So, yep. And this is one of the things I really, really like about cities, and especially as I travel around, is a lot of times there are parts of cities where they put art on the outsides of buildings. So instead of putting it on a piece of paper or a piece of different material to hang inside, they'll just put the art right on the outside of the building. It's one of my favorite things.
Mhm.
Mommy's been to a country which had a lot of paintings on the walls.
That is true.
Mhm. I was with Uncle Drew when I saw all that.
Yeah.
Tell Uncle Drew that you painted on the wall.
Yes.
And
We'll talk about Spain.
here,
Guess what?
Spain has lots and lots of famous museums with art in it. And so this is one of the museums I went to. You can see all kinds of weird, funky art.
What does HCW mean?
It stands for, well, the H stands for Hayden. Do you know what the C stands for?
City?
Yep, city. Do you know what the W stands for?
What? Water?
Hayden City Water. There you go. You got it.
What's the H actually for?
I have no idea.
He just let you guys make up things.
Yes.
What's something that is really famous that happens in Madrid?
And guess what? Mommy painted on a wall of a chalk.
Yeah.
On the inside of it. On the inside of it, just on the wall.
Was it cool? Did you see it?
Yeah, it's been there for like forever. Yeah.
For forever, since the beginning of time.
Yeah. Rachel, what are you thinking about in terms of the famous thing in Spain?
The bullfights.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted me to show photos of that. They can be graphic.
Mostly they know the story of Ferdinand. We've read that a lot.
Okay.
So just making the connection that the story of Ferdinand and the bullfights, and when he goes to fight, that's something that happens in Spain, in Madrid, where they have a bull fight a person. It can be pretty icky because they're like trying to kill the bull. But Ferdinand didn't want to fight, so he just looked at all the pretty flowers. So that was less graphic.
I'm trying to find one that would be appropriate.
I was looking for one. Yeah, it makes sense that you didn't include that. But since that's one of their, like, a story they're really used to, I just wanted to make the connection that that's where it came from.
Yeah, most of the images, oh wait, let me try this.
You recording it again?
I can't really,
Yeah, it's okay.
find one.
Thanks for trying.
Why are you recording the thing again?
In case you want to watch it someday.
Can we watch all of them?
You can watch them
Yeah, sure.
sometime.
And guess what? You tell them what happened last time. We tried to watch it on the speaker.
I was connected by Bluetooth to our speaker.
Ah,
So, like, they were doing their work, and I was thinking I
Yeah.
was just going to look at myself, and instead it broadcast across our house. It was like,
Oh,
Rocco, really loud.
well,
They both looked at me. We're really confused.
Wacko, what do you want to talk about Wacko?
it would have been funnier if it was Taiwan. Do you guys know that story?
I haven't told them.
Wait, what?
I thought I was
Taiwan.
going to tell the story when we talked about Taiwan the other day, but I forgot. It never came up.
Can you?
Rachel, do you want to tell it? Or do you want
Sure.
me to tell
So
it?
we have some great friends who used to be the pastor at Mimi and Pops' church. They went to go be a pastor. He went to go be a pastor in Taiwan for a long time when he left church. And so, you know how Mimi and Pops like to have a lot of people over for meals and parties? They were having a goodbye party for them, and they were leaving for Taiwan. But when Pops was praying before the meal for them, the way that he emphasized the word was very loud. And so he was praying normal. And he said, I'm going to pray for Dennis as he goes to Taiwan, or some ridiculous way. You could probably imitate it better.
It was very silly.
Yeah.
It would
But
be
we
like
just-
if we were in a conversation and I was like, Quinn and Hayden, let me tell you about when I was in Taiwan, because
Yeah.
I saw some stuff in Taiwan and it was very interesting. And so we were all very surprised. We were like, why is he doing this?
So we all started giggling, even though Pops was in the middle of praying. Because sometimes funny things happen no matter what you're doing.
Taiwan.
So next time you see Pops, you can go up to him and go, Taiwan, Taiwan.
Taiwan. Taiwan.
There you go. That's perfect.
You should direct him to watch this minute of this video.
Yeah.
So
Taiwan. Taiwan.
Well,
we might be
anything
just
you
about
guys
to-
want to teach me before
Taiwan.
we
Is there
say
anything-
goodbye?
Uncle Drew? Is there anything you want to teach Uncle Drew before we go? Hayden, what do you want to teach him?
How to eat with manners.
Eat with
Oh.
manners. Okay. Is this something you recently learned, or is it something that you just think I need to learn?
I think you need to learn how to eat with manners.
I think you're
What-
probably right. Can you teach me?
Teach him one that you're concerned he's not doing well.
So you hold your foot like normally, and then you just stick it and cut it and eat it. Not a blah, 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 but normally.
Let me
Mm.
If
see.
you eat it like that.
Okay, let me see. So how am I supposed to do it?
See, you cut your food and put it into your mouth. Not like blah, 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 but normally.
Do you see I have chopsticks?
You can pick up your food.
I also have a fork, so we can
Oh,
practice.
phew.
Just take a bite.
He's eating some of your face. Can you feel it?
Help?
All right.
You can eat my foot.
I'll
Do you
save
have to
that
say that?
till next time.
Anything to say before he goes?
Bye. What's
Ciao.
the
Oh wait, tomorrow is not Portugal, is it? What is tomorrow?
What is
I don't know.
the next?
Look it up the day
What's
before.
the next country?
He's checking.
Next country is drum roll. I don't know. What is the next country? I forget.
I have to look it up.
Argentina. It's Argentina.
All right. Argentina next. All right.
Cool.
Bye, Uncle Drew.
Ciao.
Ciao.